My name's Amanda. I'm going to be bringing you a vinyasa style practice today, meaning that we flow from pose to pose. We work with sun salutation variations, we work with warrior series, we work with balance, and sometimes arm balance. Feel free to practice what you can. Always know that modifications are available to you. If you need to grab a block, if you need to grab a strap, sorry, my iPad was being a little bit wonky. Know that you can use those things to help facilitate a practice that allows you to feel comfortable as well as safe. We focus on alignment. I'm going to talk you through these poses as well as call them out. I use mostly the English names just because I feel like as a population we connect better to that. Also, I'm a big believer in smiling. Laugh at yourself. Some of these poses are silly. Some of them are uncomfortable. They should never hurt. But sometimes you're going to feel awkward doing them, especially if you're new. And that's okay. Benefit of not being in a gym. Nobody can see you. But keeping that in mind, please watch for your joints. Make sure that your knee never passes your ankle, that you're not hyperextending or locking any of your joints while you're maintaining your body weight on that joint. That'll keep you safer so that you can practice another day. And speaking of smiling, my regulars know this, and it was requested, is I tell a bad joke. What do we call a pony with a cough? A little horse. See, it's a bad joke. Whether you laughed, chuckled, smiled, groaned at me, you're smiling. Or breathing. Or any of the number of things that we look for in a good yoga practice. So, keeping that in mind, we'll begin in our seated position today. Now, in your seated position, you can be easy pose. Some of us it's not so easy. If you are working with knee injuries or hip injuries, you may want to take a block or a bolster or a pillow and stack that under your hips. Elevating your hips higher sometimes than your knees can help alleviate some of the pain or pressure. You're also more than welcome to extend the legs out in front of you. We just want to encourage that place that allows us to root down through the tailbone. And as you root down through the tailbone, we want to stack our head over our shoulders over our hips, and lift our ribs away from the hips, creating more space in the diaphragm for deep breath. Then, once you have your alignment, I want you to either close your eyes or focus your gaze somewhere on the floor or the wall in front of you. We do this as we begin our practice to just bring ourselves into our practice. Especially with all the things going on in the world today, all the sudden changes that are occurring in our lives, those outside influences often create an environment that's hard for us to shut down and focus on ourselves. Give yourself that necessary gift of time to allow the body to rest and recover. Helping to focus on yourself. We focus on deep breathing or pranayama. Now it may be something where you're more comfortable with simply focusing on taking a full breath, not letting any air linger in the chest or belly with every exhale, and every inhale breathing in deep enough that the belly rises. But as you become more accustomed, you may focus on a type of deep breath. your Ujjayi breath, your ocean's breath. It's a slightly audible breath, but as you breathe in, you constrict the back of the throat, forcing the air over that constricted throat. Filling up your chest, then filling up your belly. And then exhale slowly, emptying the belly, the chest, back over that throat constriction, and back out the nose. And as you continue to breathe in and breathe out, you may notice that the body starts to warm up. We're activating the vagus nerve in the back of the throat, preparing the body for practice, as well as drawing our focus inward. Now breathing is natural, but focusing on breath is not. That will help you throughout your practice today. Help you hold those poses that are sometimes challenging. Or draw your attention back to your practice when the mind starts to wander. So we began our practice by finding this pranayama, which will allow us to call on it as we need it throughout our practice today. Now, as you continue to breathe, we can open our eyes and return our focus to our surroundings. We're going to start by focusing on the side of the neck and our shoulders, taking our left ear towards our left shoulder. Our right hand may reach towards the floor, and our left hand may rest gently on the side of the head. We're not tugging or pulling, we're simply allowing the weight of the hand to help deepen the pose. Now continue that deep breathing here. This is going to help that tension, especially tension that we've stored from stress, ease out of the body more readily. Now gently releasing the side of the head and lifting the gaze, rotating it over towards the left side. Dropping our chin towards our chest or shoulder. We're moving the stretch to the back right side of the neck. Then allowing the hands to return to the left, slowly rolling the head through center. Taking your time as you then allow the right ear to work towards right shoulder. Left hand may now reach towards the floor. It may remain in the lap as needed. An option to gently rest the right hand on the side of the head. Still breathing deeply, especially if you encounter tightness. Our first instinct reaction may to hold our breath. Try to breathe through it. By deep breathing, we release the tension. Maybe allow those muscles to relax a little bit more and not be so tight. Now releasing the side of the head, lifting the gaze and rotating it down towards the right side, chin working towards shoulder or chest. Slowly releasing your hands back towards your lap and rolling your head through center. Taking your time as you relax your chin towards your chest, we're lengthening through the back of the neck now. If your chin can rest on your chest and you'd like to interlace your fingers or bind them, you can set them down on the back of the head. Using just the weight of both hands this time to deepen this stretch. Another deep breath in and deep breath out. And with our next deep breath in, releasing our hands and lifting our gaze, taking it high towards the ceiling, stretching out the front of our neck, our chest, and our shoulders. helping to counteract some of that tech neck, especially as we've been glued to our devices, trying to learn what's going on in the world. And then gently taking our gaze back forward. From here, we're going to reach our left arm out to the side, taking a lateral stretch now up and over towards the right side. Our right hand may rest on the floor or our lap. You can even walk that hand further away from the body, but I want you to maintain that left hip planted on the floor. Your gaze rotated towards the ceiling. And if you see arm and not ceiling, that top shoulder is just rotated too far forward. Come up, rotate and stack. Make sure you can still see the ceiling. And then maybe work deeper into the pose. Then from here, taking ourselves back to center, we're going to switch sides. Our right hand reaching out, laterally reaching towards the left side, or left-handed may come to the mat. You can walk it further away from the body as well, deepening that side stretch, that reach, keeping our gaze at the ceiling. Then coming back through center. From here, we're going to work to our hands and knees, our tabletop pose. In tabletop, your hands are going to stack underneath your shoulders. Your knees are going to stack underneath your hips. I want you to take your gaze underneath your nose. This is going to keep your head in line with your back, creating a nice neutral alignment. I also want you to notice your belly. Draw that belly button towards your spine and the lungs, something we call Uddiyana Bandha, to help lengthen fully, even into the low back. You're going to feel that low back engage by lifting that belly button. This is the safest position for your back. We find this first so that we know where we're working towards, whether we're on hands and knees, sitting, standing. This is going to maintain the most neutral alignment, creating space between the vertebrae. From here, let's warm up our back and our belly. Inhale, lowering the belly and lifting the gaze, finding our cow pose. And exhale, rolling the spine, dropping the gaze, finding your cat. Continuing to flow between the two poses as we find that vinyasa flow, or one breath, one movement. Creating that mind-body connection that will become so important during your practice today. Now, as you transition through the poses, taking advantage of the entire breath to roll each individual little muscle that wraps around the back and the belly, forming the core. Just a couple more flows here. After your next cat pose, taking yourself back into that neutral alignment, that tabletop pose. From here, we're going to walk our hands forward, finding a modified plank so your knees are still down on the floor. But you are engaging through the arms. Your elbows are not locking out. There's a micro bend there. And your core is tight. That Uddiyana Bandha is really happening here. From here, we're going to exhale. We're going to hug our ribs on the way down, bringing ourselves into a modified low plank. I want you to reach through your big toes, active through the tops of your thighs, as you lift your gaze, finding your baby cobra. We still are hugging those elbows in. This is going to prevent shoulder shrugging or putting too much pressure on the labrum or the rotator cuff in the shoulder. From here, lowering the head before, then pressing through the hands, shifting through that tabletop, taking your hips behind you to a child's pose. In child's pose, your big toes are touching, your knees are together or apart. You're trying to work your hips down towards your heels, but if you're nursing an injury in your hip or your knee like me, you may need to keep your hips more lifted and stacked over the knees. Your forehead is still resting on the ground, and your arms are extending overhead. We're reaching through those fingertips to grow as tall as possible, even as we relax into this pose. It is here that we can find rest, find your breath. And at any point during your practice, if you need a moment, you can take yourself into your child's pose to relax more fully. Now just taking a couple more breaths here, I want you to notice how your body's feeling and using this information as we continue to work through our practice. From here, another deep breath in. We're going to rise back into our tabletop. Walk our hands forward. You can take another modified plank or tuck the toes and lift the hips, finding a full high plank. Exhale. Gently bend those elbows, lowering all the way down to your belly. Reach through big toes again, active through the tops of your thighs. Maybe finding your baby cobra or a little higher in your full cobra. Still hug those elbows in. If you hurt here, it is safer to come down and widen the hands and find a more W shape between the hands and the head and the other hand versus widening the elbows and creating wings, which is then going to only hurt your shoulder. From here, another deep breath in. We shift through our tabletop, tuck our toes, and lift our hips, finding your down dog. Now, as your first down dog, you may be very tight, so you're more than welcome to walk your dog by bending through one knee and lengthening through the other. As you exaggerate your hips side to side, feeling the back of your legs, your hips, your ankles, even your feet stretching more deeply here. Slowly settling into stillness. Excuse me, I'm recovering from the flu from a couple weeks ago, not the coronavirus. But we are going to bend the knees. We're going to rotate our hips high towards the ceiling. Our tailbone's the highest point in this pose. Your belly is working towards your thighs. Now, as you become more flexible or the body warms up, you may be able to straighten the legs or lower the heels closer to the floor. From here, inhale, turn the gaze, walk the feet forward, bringing them between your hands. Feet can stack underneath hips, or feet may be together, but if feet are together, knees and thighs together the entire time. Bend your knees enough your belly can rest on your thighs, letting your head, neck, and shoulders hang heavy here. If you would like, you can gently nod your head yes and no here. But it's a very slow, mindful movement, only encouraging the neck and the shoulders to relax, release any lingering tension. But always ending with our yes. Coming back into stillness, walking our hands up our legs, bringing our hands to our thighs. We hug our elbows in, finding our flat back or half lift. Your gaze is underneath your nose, about a foot in front of your toes. Your belly is tight. You're hollowing out the belly here to encourage the back to be long, active, and engaged, protecting it. Now, as long as that low back may remain flat, you may be able to bring your hands to your shins, arms long, or even reach towards the floor. But I don't want any rounding of the back, because what happens is that you're not lengthening the low back and you're only going to pull it over time. Now, once you find your flat back, you can forward fold once more. Inhale, reverse swan dive, taking our arms to the side, coming into standing. And exhale, bow down, forward fold. Once your hands are back on the ground, we're going to step back into our high plank. And exhale, low. Inhale, cobra or up dog. And then exhale, back into your down dog. Once again, settling into stillness, noticing how your body's feeling. So we're walking your feet together, lifting through the left leg, keeping your hips squared so your heel pointed up and your big toe pointed down. You're pressing your belly towards your thighs to lift a little higher as you stretch more deeply through the right side of the leg. With another deep breath in, bending through that lifted knee, bringing that knee towards your nose, and then controlling planting it between the hands. We're going to take that back right foot, sliding it up and out just a little bit, rising up to your warrior one. Now your hips are squared to the front of the mat. And we're going to try to maintain that throughout the pose. If you notice your hips want to turn to the side, you may need to shorten your stance and widen your feet away from one another, thinking more train tracks, less tightrope, to allow the body to create the pose. Now you can have your arms lengthened, you can have your arms cactus, even keeping your hands at heart center if you're working through shoulder issues. Another deep breath in, and then as you exhale, hands through heart center, turn, stepping out slightly wider, finding your warrior two. Now your hips now face the side of the room, and your arms reach front to back, shoulder level. Finding your gaze over the middle finger in the front hand. Now we're reaching through the fingers, but not with the head. The head remains stacked over shoulders and shoulders over hips. Inhale, rotate front left hand, drop back right hand, reversing your warrior. Focusing on length through the side body. We aren't compressing. We're reaching here, maintaining that extension. And then you may take it towards the wall behind you. Exhale, coming back to your warrior two. And then elbow to knee as back hand rises, finding your side angle. Here you may take hand to the floor or even a block, but we want to keep our arms stacked and our shoulders stacked over one another here. And if you'd like to extend your side angle, you can take that top arm by the ear, reaching it forward at the line where the wall meets the ceiling. That's going to find the most length through that side body. Making your way back to your warrior two. Inhale, reverse, and exhale, cartwheel the hands forward, taking them to the top edge of your mat as you step back to your high plank. Now, if stepping back into high plank is difficult, you can lower that back knee, bring that front knee behind you, returning to your tabletop, and then tucking toes to your high plank. Exhale, low, and inhale, cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. Another deep breath in as we walk our feet together, this time lifting through that right leg. Three-legged dog, but hips remaining squared. So you're flexing your foot, your big toe points down, and your heel points up. Then through that lifted leg, bring that knee forward towards your nose, taking it between your hands. Once it's steady and secure, taking the left foot, planting it, and rising up, warrior one. Once again, settling in, feeling the length through that back leg. Feeling the strength, keeping your hips squared in front of you. Then exhale, turn, open up, warrior two. Again, stepping out further, we want our back foot parallel with the back edge of the mat, and our front toes point forward, arms reaching front to back. Inhale, reverse. Taking the front hand, lifting it high towards the ceiling, palm faces behind you. You're not shifting your hips at all, but you are reaching further. Coming back to your warrior two. Elbow to knee, back hand rises, or lengthening that front arm, taking it to floor or block even, finding your side angle. Taking that arm by the ear, if you wish to extend your side ankle, you should still be able to see that ceiling as you gaze up over that arm. Then coming back to our warrior two. Inhale, reverse, and exhale, cartwheel the hands forward, taking our front foot behind us, finding your high plank. Exhale, low, and inhale, cobra or up dog. And then exhale, tuck toes, lift hips, down dog. Taking a nice deep breath in and deep breath out. Inhale, turn the gaze, stepping your feet forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive, taking our arms high towards the ceiling. And then exhale, hands through heart center. As we shift the weight to our heels, toes lift or wiggle as we sit back into our chair pose. Now in your chair pose, it's very important that your chest does not pass your toes. You want to sit deeper into the heels, lowering your hips. You don't even have to go that far. We want not to bow forward because we are working on engaging through the legs. Now hands can remain here at heart center, or you can reach them forward or towards the ceiling, the arms hugging the ears. Maybe sit a little lower. Maybe a little lower. Exhale, hands through heart center, bow down, forward fold. And then taking that weight into that right foot, the left foot's going to step way back behind you, setting up for your long lunge, your crescent lunge. Your back heel's going to be lifted, the weight's in the ball of the foot. Now, if you need to modify here, you can lower that back knee and tucking the foot, weight in the top of the foot. And in either position, hand can come to knee, heart center, or lift it. And if you're tucking the back toe, the same thing applies. You can keep hands on your knees, heart center, cactus, or lift it. Exhale, our hands through heart center, our head comes forward. We are going to take our hand to the knee, our left hand under our shoulder, rotate, stack shoulders, and then maybe lift right hand high to the sky, twisting your crescent lunge. Lowering that right hand to the outside of the foot. And if you're not on that back knee already, go ahead and lower down to that back knee. And then from here, heel toe that foot over towards the edge of the mat. We're creating space for our hips to remain square as we work into our lizard pose. We're going to work our right hand to the inside. Hands are now stacked underneath the shoulders. You may feel tight here. If your hips are exceptionally tight, this may be enough of a stretch for you. And if that's the case, but you want to work deeper, you may want to grab a block, placing your hands or forearms on the block. We're going to gently work maybe deeper into the pose, bringing ourselves down to our forearms, block or floor. And if you're feeling pretty good here and you want to tuck that back toe, lifting through that back leg, you can do so. And if you really want to have a good, say, arm balance, you can make your lizard fly by bringing your shoulder underneath your knee, your hands secure under your hips, chaturanga arms, shift the weight, and take off and fly. And after a few breaths, bringing yourself back into your lizard pose. Resting here. And then everybody coming out of the pose, working up to their hands, arms lengthened long. Once hands are secure under your shoulders, then bring that leg back behind you. Keeping that leg long, but lift it. Working into your spinal extension by reaching our left hand forward. Our gaze remains underneath our nose, so that our arm is no higher than shoulder and leg no higher than hip, but we're reaching through fingers and heel or toe. You can remain here or reach behind, reaching for a lifted foot, creating a bind. Gently releasing, re-extending long, taking hand and knee back to the earth. Once you're on hands and knees or tabletop, you can cat and cow here, shift hips side to side. Whatever you need to do to just relax and release the body after that flow. Coming back into stillness. Once again, we're going to tuck our toes and lift our hips down dog. Equal weight between hands and feet, right and left side. Our arms are hugging our ears and our gaze is on our legs or the wall behind you. Take a nice deep breath in, and as you exhale, walk those feet forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive, taking our arms overhead, and exhale, sitting back into our chair pose. Again, we've been here before. Keep those thighs active. Keep that belly engaged, that chest lifted, your gaze forward. Hands can remain here, reach forward or reach overhead. Maybe sit a little lower. Maybe a little lower. Maybe a little lower. Then inhale, lengthen long, and exhale, bow down, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. And exhale, forward fold. From here, taking the weight into our right foot, stepping back with our left. Oh, actually, wrong side. It's not my class unless I mess up once, or at least once. So we're going to take the weight into the left foot, step back with the right foot, finding our crescent lunge on the other side. Now, again, the knee is stacked over the ankle, not past it. You can keep that back leg lifted, weight in the ball of the foot, heel is lifted off the ground. Or modify, focusing less on strength and just flexibility. But wherever you choose to go, committing and then working maybe hands to knee, heart center, or lifted. Once you find your crescent lunge, settling in, finding that breath. Maybe you've lost touch with it by now. Then exhale, hands through heart center, head comes forward. Taking our left hand to knee, right hand under shoulder, rotate, stack shoulders. And then option to lift left hand high to the sky, taking a twist. Exhale, releasing the hand, taking our gaze back, lowering down to that back knee if you're not there already. And then heel toeing the left foot over to the edge of the mat as we bring the left hand to the inside of the foot. Then setting up for your variation of lizard pose. This is a deep, intense hip stretch. So, and one side's always better than the other. So if this is your tight side, respecting that, working with that, maybe taking your time to ease deeper into the pose. But as you do, maybe one forearm comes down, maybe both. And what we're looking for is that that knee remains stacked over the ankle. Sometimes you'll see people stretch like this. It changes the stretch. It takes the stretch into different various tendons and things. We want it to maintain that neutral position here so that we are focusing on the hips more fully. And again, you can work, challenge yourself. Maybe tuck the back toe, lifting through that back leg. Maybe work the shoulder underneath the knee. Or bring hands under hips, creating the arm balance, making your lizard fly. Gently working yourself back out of the position. And then slowly, as you ease out of the pose, you work hands under shoulder, arms long. Once hands are secure under shoulders, then bring the left leg behind you, keeping it long and lifted. And then reaching right hand forward, finding your spinal extension. Again, you can remain here, arm and leg lifted no higher than shoulder and hip level, or you can reach behind, creating the bind. If you bound, gently re-extending long, then taking hand and knee back to the earth. Once you're back in your tabletop, again, you can shift those hips or shoulders. You can cat and cow. And making your way back into stillness. From here, I want you to bring the left hand under the heart, left knee under hip, right leg long, reaching a right hand to the sky, finding your modified side plank. Excuse me, once again, guys, sorry. Flu is no joke, and if the coronavirus is worse than the flu, please stay safe and stay home. Now, in this modification, you can remain here and lift through that top leg. You can also challenge yourself by finding a full side plank by bringing the bottom leg long, staggering the feet or stacking feet. You can also lift the top leg in the full side plank as well. See, even I fall out of poses. Lowering the leg and lowering the hand, returning back to your tabletop pose. Once again, sorry, excuse me. We're going to bring our right hand underneath our heart. Right knee under hip, left leg long, opening up into our side plank. Now once again, this is your modified side plank. You can remain here, maybe lifting through that top leg. If you want full side plank, you can extend the bottom leg, staggering feet or stacking feet, even lifting through that top leg and full side plank. Lowering that top leg, lowering that hand, returning back into your tabletop pose. From here, cat and cow, or shifting hips side to side. But settling into stillness and shifting your hips back behind you, working into a child's pose or puppy dog. Taking a moment, catching your breath, checking back in with the body. Another deep breath in as we rise back into our tabletop. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, finding your high plank. Now from this high plank, we're going to get a little bit of core work. We're going to walk our plank. I want you to bring that left forearm down to the ground, then our right forearm to the ground, finding your forearm plank. From here, you can play with your forearm plank. You can walk those toes in, lifting the hips, finding a dolphin. Dolphin is like your down dog, except you're on your forearms. Now walking your feet back into that forearm plank if you took that challenge, and then planting the left hand or right hand, then the left hand coming back into that high plank. Excuse me, sorry. Now, yoga instructors like balance. We like things to be as even as possible, so we have to do it to the other side. And as my students know, I am talking, so you're holding your plank longer on purpose. So bring that right forearm down, left forearm down, finding your forearm plank. From here, maybe walk those toes in, lifting the hips, finding your dolphin. Holding your dolphin for a breath or two. Before walking your feet back. Finding your forearm plank once more. Planting the left hand, then the right hand returning to your high plank. Then lifting our hips, finding your down dog. Then walk the hands back to the feet, finding your forward fold at the back of your mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Bringing ourselves a heart center. And we're going to go ahead and take our standing balance challenge. Now, for your standing balance, it may be better for you to step off your mat or even step next to a wall. Sometimes it's more comfortable to have a hand or a finger that you can just secure yourself when you're working with standing on one foot. Now, our balance pose today is going to be tree pose. I'm teaching tree pose first. Other ones I'll teach different ones because tree pose is one of the quintessential yoga poses. But I also see a lot of people practice it wrong. And as one who has a chronic knee injury, I tore my meniscus, 7 months ago. And I'm going to have to deal with it for the rest of my life. It's really important to me that you guys practice knee safety. So, beginning with our left leg. You're going to shift your weight onto that leg. You're going to maintain a gentle bend of the knee because as you stand and lift, you're going to extend that leg. And if your leg starts straight and you extend a straightened leg, it's going to hyperextend, which that's how joints break. So, gentle bend in the knee. Shift the weight into the left leg. We're going to then rotate the right knee, but our hips remain squared forward. Now you can kickstand the heel on the ankle, keeping a toe on the ground. If your balance is wonky today, that may be the best option. But you can also take the foot, placing it on the calf, or using the hand and placing the foot above the knee on the upper thigh. From here, hands can come to heart center. This may be where you stay today, or option to grow your branches. Now, if you're feeling a little wobbly, you may want to focus on your drishti, your self-focus. Find something on the floor, not a person, not a mirror, because if they move, you'll move. And just stare at it till everything else around you becomes blurry. Taking our hands through heart center. Bring that knee forward and a controlled step down. Bringing yourself back to your mountain pose. Once again, sorry guys. My voice went with the flu and it is coming back in waves. So, with our next side, we're going to shift the weight into the right foot, gentle bend of that knee. Rotate the left knee, keep your hips square to the front of the mat. Once again, you can kickstand that heel on the ankle, keeping a toe on the floor. Sometimes that helps you feel more secure or work towards that standing balance. You can also bring the foot to the calf or take the hand and place the foot above the knee, no part of the foot on the actual knee. Because once that foot is lifted off the ground, you are actively pressing into that standing leg. Now hand can come to heart center, or you can even grow your branches here. And if your forest is windy today, don't judge yourself. Today just might be a windy day. Tomorrow might be a better balanced day. And just breathe. See the benefit of home yoga practice? You guys get to meet my pets. This is Sarah. She's looking at me like I'm crazy. Now bringing your hands through heart center, your knee comes forward and gently step down in a controlled manner. We're going to bring ourselves to the top of our mat here, finding our mountain pose. Arms will come by your side, your palms will face forward. Your hands or your feet are stacked under your hips. You're not locking out those knees. Your hips and your shoulders and head are all in that nice line. You can close your eyes here or focus your gaze on that drishti once more. But I want you to bring yourself inward. And as you do, breathing deeper. Standing balances are challenging. And our natural reaction when things are challenging is to hold our breath, creating a fight or flight mentality. It increases adrenaline and cortisol, which we've been running on for the last week with the stress that surrounds us. Give yourself this chance, this break, to simply focus on deep breathing. And as you breathe deeply, noticing how the body responds. The heart rate slows, the blood pressure lowers, and the mind, which may have been running around a swirl of emotion and thoughts, starts to calm down, relax, settle. Now, as you continue to breathe, you can go ahead and sweep your arms high and open the eyes, lift and gaze. Option to take a back bend if you have no neck or back issues. And exhale, hands through heart center. From here, heel-toeing your feet over to the edge of the mat. We're going to point our toes out and our heels in. We're going to set up for our deep squat or malasana. Now, here, if you have knee or hip issues, this may be an uncomfortable pose for you. You can modify by taking a block, setting it on your hips to sit on, or rolling up the edge of your mat and placing your heels on that elevated surface so you feel more secure in the pose. And for my weightlifters, think of elevating your heels like your lifters. So when you're doing your front squat or your back squat, you know that extra lift of the heel allows you to sit deeper in the squat. The same thing applies in yoga. But once you're ready, we're going to sit down deeply. Your knees tracking towards your toes but never past them. You want to bring your elbows to the inside of your knees, your hands to heart center, your gaze forward. Sitting deeply into your malasana. And just breathe. But if you do want to take one more arm balance today because you feel like flying or just having fun, you can take your Diti Baddhasana, your firefly pose, by bringing your shoulders underneath your knees, wrapping your hands underneath you. Your head's going to come forward. Your fingers are going to face your heels. Now, as you sit onto the shoulders, lowering your hips, you're going to shift the weight to your hands. Your feet may rise. Now, if your hamstrings are flexible, you may be able to lift your feet, straightening them. And after you hold a couple breaths and fly, if you'd like to gently lower your feet, we're returning to your malasana for a breath or two. And then from here, everybody can take a seat. Now you may be able to simply lower down, but if that's not comfortable, you may need to place your hands heel-toe your feet together, and then come down to one knee and your second knee. But we are to the final portion of class. We're to the portion we are stretching. This is where having a strap or having the block may be more comfortable for your body, because we're here to not make our bodies fit the poses, but the poses to fit our body so that we essentially feel better. Now we are going to start with our single bound angle pose. You're going to bring your left foot to the inside of that right thigh. Your right leg's going to be long. I want you to flex your foot here. By flexing your foot, you're lengthening through the back of the leg. The next thing we're going to do is rotate our shoulders to face that lengthened leg. We want to reach down with equally lengthened arms. The way you can check yourself is when you extend your arms to the side. If your fingers are the same length, your body is squared. If you notice that one arm's longer than the other, you're leaning to that side. And you may feel like you can reach further, but you aren't lengthening through all three hamstrings evenly, and you're actually going to make yourself more or less flexible over the long term. Now with those squared up shoulders, we're hinging where the hips meet the thighs. Flat back forward. You're going to bring yourself as far forward. It may be half an inch or it may be 6 inches. But then walk hands down the leg. Here, if you have a strap or a towel and you'd like to take it around the bottom of your foot, you can hold on or walk your hands down that strap or towel. If you can reach for your foot, careful to not tug on your toes. We can actually influence our joints. They're very delicate. We want to hang on to the sole of the foot or the ball of the foot to protect our toes. Then, when you can go no further forward, we're going to bring our chin towards our chest, rounding out our back last. Taking another deep breath in as we gently walk ourselves back up into seated. Our head is the last thing to lift. We're going to switch to the other side now, lengthening through the left leg, bringing our right foot to the inside of the thigh. Now, I forgot to mention this on the first side, and I'm sorry. If you need to, you can always take a block and place it underneath the knee, or if having the knee bent is very painful, you can also modify by bringing your foot off the edge of your mat, keeping your knee lifted and your foot planted. Wherever you choose to go, though, know we are still rotating through the shoulders. We're checking our arms. We want them equal so that our shoulders are squared to the extended leg. Hinging forward, flat back, walking our hands down the leg towards the foot, maybe strap or towel, and then chin to chest. Another deep breath in as we gently bring ourselves back up into seated. We're going to lift through that right leg, extend it long, coming into our seated staff pose. Now in your seated staff pose, this is where it may be a little more challenging. You might not be able to work as deeply into the pose. This is where that strap around the bottom of your feet might be handy, literally. But from here, hinging forward, flat back. Yeah, bad jokes, I'm sorry. You can laugh at me, I know. Hinge forward, flat back. Again, you may only come forward half an inch or you may come forward 4 inches. Then walking our hands down the legs, down towards the feet. Then wrapping our hands around the feet eventually. And last step for everyone is chin to chest. Slowly making your way back up into seated. And then bending through the knees. We're going to plant the feet. We're going to set up for our boat pose. Again, sorry. Not the coronavirus. I promise. Had a positive flu test, I swear. So from here, we're going to work into our boat pose. Now, if you have back issues or core issues, this may be a painful pose for you, or you could even incur injuries. Be very careful and mindful of it. We're going to start by first actively engaging the core. You're going to round through that low back. Your hands are going to come behind the thighs. As you walk your feet in, your heels may rise. Now, as the weight sits in the hips, you may be able to lift your feet. You may be able to release your hands. This may be where you stay in your boat pose. You can stay here, or maybe extend legs long. Maybe reach hands high to the sky. Holding your boat for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Maybe make your way into a low boat. Feet lifted, arms and legs lifted, a hollow body. Holding it for 5, 4, 3, 2, and one. Lowering feet and lowering body as we bring ourselves to the floor. Now the secret of my class is if we are on our backs, we don't get back up until after Shavasana. So the first thing I want you to do is bring your knees towards your chest, hugging them close to your body. Now you can rock those knees side to side, getting a little bit of a free back massage. You can even roll those knees in a circle, just about a basketball-sized circle here will work. Then gently reversing the circle if you decided to work it in one direction, just so again, we maintain balance. And finding stillness once more. Lowering the feet to the floor. And we're going to take our laying spinal twist. Using your feet, we're going to shift the weight onto the left hip, dropping our knees over to the left side. Your gaze can stay on the ceiling, but if possible, working it over the right shoulder. We want to look over to the right side to encourage both shoulder blades to lay on the floor. You can even extend the right arm out to the side to help that lay more flat. And then here, let your belly hang out. Nobody's watching anyway. But the more you relax your belly, the deeper you can make the spinal twist. And just breathe. Come out of this pose, you're going to bring your gaze back towards the ceiling and your knees back towards center. Use your feet, lift your hips, straighten your back before dropping your knees over towards the right side and your gaze to the left. Again, you can extend the left arm out to the side to help encourage the body to deepen the twist. Then coming out of the pose, bringing our gaze back to center, our knees back to center, using our feet, lifting our hips and straightening our back. You can take your knees to your chest, hugging them close one more time before allowing your feet to return to the floor. At this point, we have come to our final pose of class, our final relaxation. If it's more comfortable to keep your feet planted and your knees bent, that may allow the back to lay more flatly on the ground. But if the body allows, you may lengthen the legs long, letting your toes splay out in a comfortable position. Your arms come alongside your body, palms up, or resting hands on your belly, palms down, letting our shoulders relax. And as we allow every single muscle in the body to become heavy without movement, we're going to allow our breathing to become soft, shallow, and light. Our chest barely rising with every inhale. And as we settle into this, the final piece of the puzzle is the mind. Sometimes the hardest pose of all. But allowing the mind to remain present here, in your practice, in this room, on your mat. But letting thoughts come and go, never lingering, acknowledging them, and then releasing them as you find your Shavasana. taking another deep breath in, bringing life back into your body. You're going to wiggle your fingers and your toes, rolling your wrists and your ankles. And then when you're comfortable, you may gently make your way onto your right side. Maybe cradling your head under your arm under your head like a pillow as you pause here for just a second before you return back to your daily lives. Reflecting perhaps on your practice, your day or evening ahead. But my final request is that you reflect on something that makes you thankful. Whether it's something big or something small, it has an immense power to carry you throughout the rest of your day. And using that thankfulness to gently carry you to seated, drawing your hands to heart center, your eyes remaining closed. And I always end our practice with a final thought of the day. Today, it's anonymous, but so relevant. Smile at strangers. We're all in this together. With that, what really roughly translates is the light in me sees and respects the light in you. Namaste. Thank you guys so much for sharing your practice with me. Thank you for bearing with my little bit of my bad voice. I am feeling much better than when I actually got knocked down with the flu. So don't let it fool you. This is my first video recorded class. Thanks for bearing with me. This is a learning process with my classes suddenly yanked away. I'm having to explore new revenues. And as many of my friends will document and attest, I never thought I would be teaching yoga. They made me go to training, and I said it's just here so I can learn more. And then all of a sudden I started teaching, and I really love it. So I hope that this reaches you, and over time I will get better at this. And if you have any special requests, know that every practice I teach is completely different. But if you would like to learn a certain pose or how to get into a certain pose, I will happily take requests or help you work through certain issues like shoulders or hips. Today was just a very broad spectrum of different poses to work through the different flows, but we can focus on certain areas of the body or working towards different poses like arm balances. But anyways, thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Namaste.